All right. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here this morning. As always, I will start with our latest update on public safety. Homicides are down 22%. Non-fatal shootings are down 19%. Aggravated assaults are down 10%. Robberies are down 22%. Auto thefts are down 34%. As you all know by now, the first 6 months of 2025, when it comes to violence, especially homicides, we are the safest on record. This progress, as we head into even deeper into the summer, is something that we should acknowledge and thank all of our partners in that work, everybody from the women and men of BPD, those who are in our community violence intervention ecosystem, our partners in the governor, the Attorney General, the State's Attorney, our federal law enforcement partners, but in particular and most importantly, the residents of Baltimore who are working in their communities to make their neighborhoods safer each and every day. We will continue to do that because any death from gun violence is one too many for us, and we're going to continue to work to make sure that we're making historic progress every day in Baltimore. Now, with that, I have two items at the top today and two announcements for today. First, I want to acknowledge that today is the 2-year anniversary of the Brooklyn Homes mass shooting. My heart continues to be with those who we lost, Aaliyah and Khalis. We will never forget them and never forget what their families are going through, and also the 28 others who were injured and all of those who are suffering from the lasting pain and trauma of the worst mass shooting in our city's history. And we made a promise 2 years ago that we would show up and continue to show up for the people of Brooklyn, and we continue to do just that. Monty is engaged in the community year-round. In fact, they will continue to hold and work with members of the community as they do even today as we acknowledge the 2-year anniversary. This togetherness and resilience is what defines Baltimore, and it has made a difference. And from October of 23 to January 25, that Safe Street site in Brooklyn went 475 days without a homicide. In 2024, homicides in that community dropped 90%, and violent crime and property crime are down significantly. And as we mark today's anniversary, you have my commitment that we will continue to follow through with our promises to that community in every way possible. Second, continuing on the topic of safety, obviously Friday is the 4th of July. We'll have the fireworks as we always do at the Inner Harbor and a new drone show down in Cherry Hill. But every year we know that folks decide that they have the skills to show off their own personal expertise and set up their own fireworks show. And every year our firefighters, doctors, and nurses treat burn victims and put out house fires because of those illegal fireworks. I promise you, you are not a fireworks expert. Do not blow your hand off. Do not set your house on fire. Do not do any of the things that will make you go viral on TikTok, as people have done time and time again. Let's be safe this weekend. Now, on to the announcements. First, I want to welcome Dr. Terraza back to City Hall to serve as Deputy Mayor of Equity, Health, and Human Services. I'm also happy to share that J.D. Miro is returning to his role as Deputy Chief of Staff after serving as the interim deputy. We're grateful to both of them for their service and their commitment to their city. And our second announcement today, as many of you know, last August I issued an executive order calling for a comprehensive review of the overdose crisis in Baltimore City and a strategic plan to guide our response. For months, my team, led by our newly established Mayor's Office of Overdose Response and the Baltimore City Health Department, has worked with city agencies and community partners to complete this work. Today, I'm proud to announce that we are releasing both the needs assessment and our strategic plan. The needs assessment shows us in data what many of us know from lived experience here in Baltimore. It identifies barriers to access, particularly for older Black men, silos between our care providers and stigma that keeps folks from seeking help that they desperately need. With this information, my Office of Overdose Response created a strategic plan, which we are also releasing today. This plan lays out priorities for city agencies and our frontline community partners, including a dramatic increase in harm reduction treatment and social support services for those impacted by the overdose crisis, including older Black men and folks involved in the criminal justice system. The needs assessment and strategic plan will guide our work going forward. We'll update them every 2 years to make sure that they evolve with the crisis, much like we update our comprehensive violence prevention plan every 2 years to go along with the evolving nature of violence. And in the coming weeks, every resident will have the opportunity to provide their feedback either online or at listening sessions across the city. We'll host those community listening sessions on July 9th, 17th, 23rd, and 31st. The slide will have the specific locations and times for you guys later. To be clear, this work started a very long time ago and continues each and every day. But we know that the settlements and awards we've won will help us expand the efforts that exist, not just with city government, but also with our community partners significantly. Which brings me to today's BOE meeting. We just approved opioid restitution funds for 2 organizations named in those settlements. The Maryland Coalition of Families, which will expand its crucial family peer support services for people navigating substance use disorder, and Roberta's House, which will have additional resources to provide grief support to those affected by substance use in our communities. And we have Ms. Annette Marsh-Greer, the Executive Director, here with us today. There is no easy fix to this epidemic, and we will not succeed overnight. But we have never been in a better position to heal the damage done to our communities, and we will heal our communities and do this work the only way it will be successful, and that's together. And with that, I will take a drink of water and open it up for questions.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, what was the CAD dispatch problem and what's being done about it?
Thank you for that question, David. So I think when you talk about CAD and the incident from last week, CAD is a technology system, right? We know that technology systems fail. We are investigating what happened with that particular incident and how that played a part in the unfortunate incident that happened last weekend. That's all a part of the investigation to go back and see exactly what happened, who did what happened with the system. But I want the residents to also know, because it's a technology system, this is why you also have backups. There are backup procedures and things that are in place, and a part of the investigation is to go back and look and see how those were used in this situation as well.
Please raise your hand. Please raise your hand if you have a follow-up or if you have a question.
Got a follow-up. Got a couple of them. Who's investigating it? How is it being investigated? Is there a contingency plan in place? Because union officials are saying this happens.
Yeah, again, and they know, that's what I just said, David, there is a backup. This isn't a new thing, right? Systems go down, not just here, but across the country, and not just the CAD system, right? We all know about what was happening with some of the systems involving airplanes recently. We have a backup system and backup policies in place, and that part of this investigation through BPD is to see how that was followed that day.
I wanted to ask about the timing of the release of the draft overdose strategic plan. Since it's meant to help direct the spending of opioid restitution funds, why wasn't it created before the city allocated the first year of funding with the opioid restitution funds?
So I guess you again have to be reminded that the majority of this was the settlements, the funds this was laid out in the settlements themselves. So this isn't an option for the city to do that, right? It was laid out that the judge that Roberta's House, all these folks had to receive this money, and we are never going to spit. We aren't the folks in DC. We're not going to spit in the face of the court system. We're going to follow that and work through. And we know that there's going to be even significantly now more money, and that this group will be working with us to talk about that and how we can invest in the system.
Sorry, just to clarify, I was talking about the funds that were allocated to city agencies and not necessarily the nonprofits that were named in the settlements.
Yeah, well, again, we're talking about critical systems that need to be done. And also you're talking about, we also have to do things in accordance with the city charter and when the city's budget has to be done.
Chris?
Thanks, Scott. We had Doc Cheatham just call in the TJ Smith show, and he had said that he believes that the Western District police officers have an awful relationship with the community there in reference to last week's incident. What would you say to that? I mean, because we just had Commissioner Worley on 98 Rock and WBAL, and certainly touting all the numbers as far as homicide drops, but what would you say to such a comment?
Yeah, listen, I've known Doc Cheatham since I was 18 years old, and I will have a personal conversation with Doc. But what I would say is that we are not, as I always say, we are not where we want to be. The commissioner himself said it last week when it comes to police community relations in Baltimore. But as someone who grew up young, poor, and black in this city, we are a light years away where we were not just 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, and we're going to keep improving, and that's what we have to do. We don't achieve the things that we've achieved when it comes to public safety without the community and police relationships improving. The homicide detectives don't have the clearance rate that they have without things and help from the community, right? We all know that there's going to be a lot more work to be done, and we just have to continue working so the doc feels better about it.
Carson?
Yeah, so this morning I saw you, the city has, and you have joined the mayors of Chicago and Columbus in suing the Trump administration over changes to Obamacare enrollment. What do you hope to gain from this case?
We hope to protect people's health care. We know that through these efforts and through the efforts of the big hideous bill, you're talking about trying to gut health care for not just Baltimoreans, but Americans all over this country, and many of whom come from the president's base. You're talking about a bill that is cutting $1.3 trillion in critical services for average everyday Americans to give $1.3 trillion to people who are the wealthiest of the wealthy, who quite frankly don't need more money, period.
Follow-up?
A follow-up just on the idea of the Trump administration here. I'm sure you saw last week's ruling about the nationwide injunctions. Was wondering if you had a reaction to that at all.
Well, I think it's unfortunate, but we have to operate in what the ruling is. We're going to continue in any time that the administration is going too far outside of the Constitution, doing things that are detrimental to not just to Baltimore, but to American democracy. We're going to take any road that we have.
And Scott, as you mentioned, it's been 2 years since the Brooklyn Day mass shooting. There have been several people charged in connection to the shooting, but no one charged with the murder of the victims. What do you say to the families in the community who still want justice?
Well, we're going to get more justice, right? Well, we're going to continue to work. Those detectives will continue to work to figure out more people who were shooting into crowds. And I think that that's something that we have to remember. You're talking about individuals that were shooting into crowds of hundreds of people. We all remember that video, right? And we're never going to stop looking for those individuals.
Okay.
And then another question, there's a leader of DJS out, new leader coming in. What are you hoping for with this new leadership?
Well, what I'm hoping for is what I've said again. No matter who's the head of DJS, right? I've been very open and blunt about this for many, many years. The entirety of that system has to be redone and looked at in a different way. What I'm hoping for is that we get to a place where my police officers aren't consistently arresting the same people for the same things over and over again. And I want to just expand upon why I say that. Obviously, I don't want my residents to be victimized by people who have victimized other people for the same crime over and over again. But also, I grew up here in Baltimore. I know what happens when someone, no matter what their age is, continuously goes out and robs people and carjacks people. Someone's going to be looking for them. And those kind of people end up dead on the streets of Baltimore, right? We have to hold people accountable no matter their age, but we also have to build a system that understands that young people's brains are different, and we have to, in every case that we can, rehabilitate them. But allowing them to continue to do the same thing over and over again is not the solution, because ultimately it could cost them their lives or one of our residents' lives, and that's something that we don't want.
Have you had a conversation with the new leader?
Not yet. I will though. But I just about the new leader, and I think the very unique opportunity we have here, obviously from where she's coming from, dealing at Roca, she understands the entirety of what's happening for these young people and the entirety of the community culture, and which allows her to understand how we can work to save young people like Roca does each and every day, but how we balance that with accountability and make sure that we're holding people accountable as well. So I'm very excited about her leadership. Okay.
Underground fires from the weekend.
Say, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Underground fires from the weekend. Can you just give us
Yeah, listen, they happen. The fire department obviously is going through the investigation period. We'll be able to update you guys once they complete that work. It's unfortunate that it happened. We're lucky that we didn't lose major systems. No one was injured. All of the things that you worry about when you have a fire.
Mackenzie, you have a follow-up? Mackenzie.
Okay, could you give us your thoughts on the Baltimore police officer who was charged with raping and assault of a 16-year-old girl?
Let me first say that I want to thank the Women and Men for BPD for treating him like they would treat anybody else accused of that crime and pulling him off the streets. Anytime anybody is accused with sexual assault and rape of anyone, especially of mine, it's hideous. But when it's someone whose job is to do that exactly, to remove them people from the streets himself, it makes it even worse. We obviously aren't going to get in front of any investigation, but we want this individual held to the highest standard of law, just like we would a regular citizen. It does not matter to me that this person is a police officer. We're talking about a 16-year-old girl, and this is just unacceptable, and we should have the most stringent penalty possible and placed upon this person if we're able to get a conviction.
Looking at, the last time we talked about raises for DPW solid workers, you said that there were still in negotiations during the budget time, now that the budget has come and gone and it's been signed. I talked to a couple of DPW workers who said they haven't been told what their raise will look like. Do you have an update?
Yeah, Mackenzie, I think that I'll just explain this again. I am never going to get out ahead of negotiations with the union. We are in negotiations with ASHME right now. Those negotiations I expect to be coming to an end in the very near future, and then both the folks at the union and myself will be communicating with all the workers about what raise they're going to get and how that's going to be put into place. But I am never going to get ahead of that, right? We can see in Philadelphia what happens when right now when mayors and the labor union get into positions where they're not working together. You're talking about work stoppages and things like that. I have a great working relationship with ASHME and will continue to do that, and they would be very unhappy with me if I were here telling you things that we're talking about in negotiations. But as I said before, the workers will be getting a raise once we're able to close those negotiations out. I expect that we'll be talking about them publicly to everyone, including you.
And then I have one more question about DPW and then another question from a colleague.
First question, and then we'll come back to you for your follow-up.
Okay, so just from a DPW perspective, can you just explain the decision to move DPW Director Khalil Zaid into the new role? A lot of DPW workers say that they appreciate the work that he had been doing, helping the department move in a more positive direction.
Yeah, listen, we're elevating Khalil because of his leadership, but I think it's very important to note that what we're doing is really putting all the operational agencies under him so that he can take that same kind of focus to not just DPW, but to DOT and to others, because some of the same issues had existed across, right? And we want that to grow, to that work to continue. But he isn't going anywhere, right? He's still going to be working with DPW and their leadership each and every day. He still will be the direct supervisor for the person that is replacing him at DPW, and I want the workers to know that. He'll still be out there talking and visiting and working with the workers. That will not change. We're going to continue to have his leadership and welcome him back into City Hall, because this isn't the first time he's held this position.
Circling back to the underground fires, I understand that you don't have an investigation complete on the one that's just in this area, but how about the series of fires that were on Charles Street almost a year ago now?
Yeah.
Was there a conclusion as to what caused those, and is there any belief that they're connected to the same cause that might have caused this one?
I don't think there's any connection, and Emily, what we'll do is follow up just off I have a lot of things in my brain, but I do not remember off the top of my head the results of those, but we can follow up with you with those.
Okay. And at the time of those fires, you had convened an underground
Yep.
services work group. How often are you meeting? What's been the outcome of
Well,
that?
they've been meeting, and we'll provide that with the follow-up too. And I think it's important to always, I know you know this, but I have to say it, important for everyone to also understand, we're talking about very, very, very old infrastructure underneath the city of Baltimore. This is why you see all this infrastructure work happening, and we have to continue to work to update it.
We'll do a final round of questions. Janine, Mackenzie, and then if you have one, please raise your hand.
When it goes to the fuel spill that happened from the Johns Hopkins situation down in Harbor East, they vowed to pay for it. Do you have any idea what the cost may be at this point, or any rough estimate?
No, not yet. That obviously we'll be working with our folks at MD and others and Hopkins to do all that calculation, but I know that the city won't be paying for it, and they will.
And the status of it right now?
The status of what? The pavement itself, or?
Cleanup.
The cleanup, right now, as you can see, the water is a lot cleaner. We're obviously going to continue to monitor to see if any other things come out. Those things will still remain in place, but we're a lot happy. I actually received a video from someone on Instagram over the weekend about the turtles, and a young lady was talking about the fish that are jumping out of the harbor in that area. So I was pleased to see that. I would share it, but there was a lot of cursing in the video.
This is from one of my colleagues. Yesterday, the storms that came through, there was some significant flooding in the video, showing a car got stuck, driving through the flooding in Fells Point, it caught on fire. What is the city doing, or how does the city plan to improve drainage in areas like Fells Point that we know that continues to flood when there's heavy rain through that area? Do you have any plans or an update on that?
Well, this is not about drainage. This is about climate change and rising water, right? I think we have to understand that. This is why when we have these storms happen, we close streets down in certain areas. For example, I know at the banner they had a picture of someone whose car was stuck on Northwood. And if you look in the picture, you can see back that there's a truck there that was there to shut the road down, and the people drove around it, right? Our director, Joey Henderson at OEM, they know. Every time we're going to have significant storms, they are what they call automatic closures that we have, because we understand what's happening here, especially in areas like Fells Point and others, which is why you look at the things and some of the things that we try to do even at Middle Branch, and why some of these cuts, Mackenzie, hurt, right? Because you're talking about putting things in to mitigate these things, right? When you think about Patapsco and Hanover and those areas, or in the area around Harbor Hospital, that also floods when you have significant storms. And we have to also be reminded that we're talking about more severe storms more frequently. So we have to understand that it's real and figure out ways to improve infrastructure as much as we can, but also we have to do things that are going to deal with the real issue here, and that's how do we limit the things that we're doing that are expediting these kind of storms and actions.
And then over the weekend, there was a video of a car rally in Harbor East.
Mm-hmm.
How dangerous do you view that type of activity, and what more do you think the city can do to prevent that?
Well, I think it's important to note this isn't just a city issue, Mackenzie, as you know very well. These issues, there's literally a regional task force that works on this, because for those who don't know, they typically start these things out on Liberty Road. They come in, they go through Woodlawn, they come into the city, they come downtown, they go through Harbor East, they go back out 40 and back out into the county. In fact, in this case, this weekend, we made an arrest of someone who was involved in it, and they lived in Baltimore County. These are very unsafe, and we know that young people in particular, they think that this it's a cool thing to do, but How many times we've seen these things go wrong in other cities where someone gets flung from a car or killed in an accident, and people have to be understand that these things they're unsafe. But it's also a call for parents, especially these younger folks, right? Because they know what kind of cars their people are driving. They know what they're doing in them. We need them to be a part of this. Law enforcement here at the city level, working with our county partners, both in Howard, Baltimore, Anne Arundel, and even our partners at MSP, they're going to continue to do everything that they can do to deal with these issues and hold people accountable by tracking them down to where they live. And we need folks, also our residents, when you see these cars start to come in, right, before they do the things that they're doing. They often have scouts and they're lining up. That's when we need folks to call so that we can try to get ahead of it.
Questions? Chris?
Governor Moore releasing a statement last night about the big beautiful bill he called a direct assault on the people of my state by our own federal government. Do you echo those statements? And I know that he's made Instagram videos of showing vacant houses being reduced here in Baltimore. You've mentioned cuts as well too. Are you worried about that with this bill and this budget coming up that Maryland could really, and Baltimore could feel the effects?
I think that everyone has to understand what's happening here. You are talking about the basic core tenets of services and social backup in America being gutted, right? I just want to make sure that you hear this. A $930 billion Medicaid cut. That's going to be devastating to hospital systems, right? We have to think about, does that mean that we lose hospitals in Baltimore City? Does that mean that people have to go further to get care and have to wait longer because more people have to go into those systems? That means how many people will be out of work, because we know that healthcare is one of the largest employers in our city. We have to think about that. 1 in 4 nursing homes in the country will be forced to close, right? That's a real thing. Energy bills are going to increase by hundreds of dollars for Americans. We already know how much of a hot button item that is for us. And again, it adds $3.3 trillion to the budget. They're calling it the big, beautiful bill. I call it the big, hideous bill, because this bill isn't good for Americans today. It's not good for Americans tomorrow. It's not good for Americans 20 years from now. This is actually one of the most despicable things that we've seen tried to be done by anybody. And every member of Congress who is actively voting for something that they know is going to hurt. People will die because of this bill, especially in places that voted for the president overwhelmingly. They should be ashamed, and all of them should face severe challenges in the next election.
Last question.
I just wanted to see if you would be willing to elaborate on your answer to my previous question about the timing of the strategic plan for opioid overdoses.
No.
I understand that there's a city charter that says a budget needs to be passed by a certain date, but I just was wondering, why wasn't the plan released, prior to that date?
Well, I think that we again understand that that we were still in a legal situation at that point, and we were not going to get out ahead of the judge. We will never do anything to risk, and I think we've been very clear about this the whole time. The entire time. We know that folks have been wanting us to rush and say and do these things. That many of the same folks who were saying that I was wrong for going on my own and I should just join the state. Those people were wrong then. They continue to be wrong. My job is to do what's in the best interest of Baltimore, not to make people feel good, not for make people feel like their ideas have been or their willingness to want me to talk about things publicly has made them feel better. No, we are never going to do that. Even when people are yelling and screaming at me for not signing on, I did not waver because I've lived this. Many of the folks who are talking and complaining about this, they didn't live it. They didn't grow up in a neighborhood where they saw their friends' parents selling their Christmas gifts, only for you to have to give gifts to your friends because your parents said you need to make sure that your friends feel loved on Christmas. They didn't see people die from overdose. They have no earthly clue. Reading it in a book, reading it in a story is not the same. I will never give in to those people. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, everyone.